It was the case that many said was virtually impossible to win. A celebrity suing for defamation in the United States of America, land of the First Amendment. Johnny Depp, an admitted drug user, accusing his ex, Amber Heard, of purposely lying about being abused by Depp and destroying his reputation and career. It was a trial which happened after Johnny lost a similar case against a tabloid in the UK. Ben Chu, lead attorney for Johnny's legal team, sat down with Court TV's Chanely Painter today.
The verdict came in, our hearts were in our throats. We were hopeful, but not presumptuous.
Tonight, we take a look at the entire interview as Ben Chu takes us behind the curtain, revealing what it was like to represent one of the most famous actors in the world.
He looked to me and my team for that, and that was a great honor and privilege, and we knew that it was the most important case that Johnny had ever been involved with.
And reacting to statements made by Amber's attorney after the $15 million verdict.
That was almost more disappointing than her statement about evidence being kept out, because I construed that as an affront to the jury.
And now the interview with the winning attorney from the trial of this century, Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. I'm Vinny Politan. Great to have you with us tonight here on Closing Arguments. Wow, what a show we have in store for you this hour. Unbelievable insight that you will get. I wanted to start, though, when you're young, right, and you're thinking about, what do I want to be when I grow up? And for lots of us, we want to be, you know, maybe a rock star. That would be like a great career, right? Get up on stage, people screaming your name, asking for your autograph, following you around, making tons of money, jetting around the world. It'd be a great life, right? At least that's what you think. It would be a great life. You know, you want to be a rock star, or whatever your rock star is. You know, you want to be famous, you want to be rich, all that sort of stuff. And then, you know, reality checks in, and at a certain point in your life, you're like, okay, I get it. I can't sing. I'm never going to be a rock star. I mean, I'd get booed off the stage during karaoke, for goodness sake. So, you know, you end up, maybe you go to law school, right? And you go to law school and you give up the dream, the original dream of being the rock star. And now you have new dreams, you know, things that you want to accomplish, you know, after going to law school. Maybe you want to be a great prosecutor, or you want to be a judge someday, or you just want to help get justice for people who need a voice. And that's admirable, obviously, and a great career. But you've given up that original dream of being the rock star. And for lawyers, you know, day in and day out, what do? I mean, you could be just the greatest litigator in the world and be great at depositions and filing motions and making arguments in front of judges. And then at the end of the day, best case scenario, maybe like one of your colleagues was in the courtroom and says, hey, that was a great argument you made. Or the judge will give you a little nod, or even your client will say, thanks, counselor, you really made a difference, right? That's usually like the best you can do as a lawyer who's really good at their job, like really good at your job. And then this happened, right? Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard, and it was different. It was way different for Johnny Depp's legal team. I mean, you had to be there in Fairfax County, Virginia. I mean, yeah, they were there screaming for Johnny Depp, obviously. That's been his life. He literally is a rock star and an actor, right? But his lawyers became stars, right? It happened on social media, the internet, but at the courthouse, that's where you really, really felt it. The excitement, the anticipation. I mean, people gathered outside the doors, the front doors, just waiting for the moment that one of these lawyers is going to step outside so I can scream and cheer and say their name, maybe get a picture with them. Amazing, amazing. They became rock stars. And guess what happened? Chanely Painter and the rock star together today in the Big Apple, New York City, and we've got that interview to play for you. But first, let's bring in our rock star, Court TV legal correspondent, Chanely Painter. joining us from New York, New York. Great to see you, Chanely. Great job with the interview. I mean, the folks are going to see it in just a second, but how is Ben Chu handling this new rock star status that he has?
In the most humble way possible. What a nice guy. I mean, he's so affable and just congenial. He's approachable, and he's just taking this in stride. He almost feels embarrassed at all the attention that he's been getting over the last several weeks, Vinny. Great to be with you. I am here in New York City. Now, Johnny Depp may be across the pond in the UK, but his attorneys are here in New York, so we had to come here in person to meet with them, and I was very excited to sit down with Ben Chu. We were limited on the amount of time that we had with him. I didn't even get to 3 pages of my multiple-page outline with him, Vinny, but what we did glean, such key insights behind the scenes, things our cameras may not have seen during the six-week trial, and I can't wait for our viewers to watch it all.
And it's so appropriate that you were timed, just like the lawyers were timed during the trial. You know, all right, you've got this much time to get it all in. So let's jump right in. Let's take a look. Chanely Painter speaking with Ben Chu here, talking about, you know, getting involved with Johnny Depp and getting involved in the trial of this century. Let's take a look.
We lived and breathed this trial for 6 weeks, but you, your legal team, lived and breathed this trial for years. This was filed in 2019. You guys have been working. I looked through the court file. There are hundreds of documents back and forth in this case file. So take us back a little bit to how you got involved in this case and how you maybe approached this trial because you were representing Johnny Depp.
Well, I'd had the pleasure and honor of representing Johnny in a couple of other cases against his former manager and against his former attorney. So when this case came to be thought of, he looked to me and my team for that, and that was a great honor and privilege. And we knew that it was the most important case that Johnny had ever been involved with. So we gave a lot of thought to the personnel we were going to bring to bear. And we assembled what I think is the best team our firm could muster. And we had people from our Orange County office, people from our New York office, people from our Boston office, and people from our office here in DC.
It's dozens of attorneys, the whole team, like an army, I think is what I called them, of attorneys. And
small army.
Small army. And you delegated certain roles, but this was a lot of unglamorous or unspectacular preparation, I think, in preparing for this case. Give us an idea, if you can, the amount of hours that your team put in.
It was a massive amount of hours, and there were also, in the years leading up, and you're right, we filed it on March 1, 2019. Ms. Heard's team had at least 3 sets of dispositive motions seeking dismissal of the claims on various legal grounds. So that was something we had to contend with. There was also a lot of discovery, a lot of document discovery, and many, many depositions.
How involved was he in the preparation of this trial and the day-to-day of the testimony?
Quite a bit. He wanted to know exactly what we were doing, who we were speaking to. He had a lot, without disclosing attorney-client privilege, he had a very heavy input into the strategy. He's a super bright and thoughtful person. So it was very helpful to have a client so involved in the process.
And both Johnny and Amber took the stand in this trial. Let's start with Johnny's testimony. How did you help him prepare for the days he was on the stand?
Mostly it was Jessica Myers, who's a very talented attorney in our New York office. We tried to match up attorney with witness. And it was our collective thought that Jessica and Johnny were a good match. They're both very quick, they're very, very smart and diligent, and it really worked out well. So most of the preparation was one-on-one, Jessica and Johnny, or with Camille or me. We brought Wayne Dennison from our Boston office to come in and play the heavy, and a role he played very well.
Great cross-examiner, by the way.
Oh, well, I think Wayne is the best. He's terrific. So he came in to play the part of Ben Rottenborn, cross-examiner, because we anticipated they would put a man on Johnny and try to get him riled up. So I think Johnny was well prepared. But as to the substance of his testimony, that was all Johnny. We of course had suggestions, as you do with any witness, but the words were all his.
On that cross, because there were moments that went viral from that cross-examination.
Thank you.
So I'll just stop talking.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I want to be
Certainly,
respectful of the
not a
court's
problem,
time
Mr.
and the
Rottenborn.
jury's time.
Sorry?
I just said I want to be respectful of the court's time and the jury's time, and I trust that you do too. So,
Well, I don't feel like I'm wasting anyone's time, sir.
could you pull up Exhibit 408, please?
And Ben Rottenborn really inundating the jury, everyone, with, like you've mentioned, these text messages, these audios, trying to paint a darker picture of the beloved movie star. What advice did you give him to handle that, to just agree, with Rottenborn? What did you tell him?
Well, we just told him to keep his cool, and he did. And I think I think to some extent, hopefully we inoculated the jury a little bit of that.
Were you watching the jury during this? Did you have any observations of how they took him in?
We tried to be careful about that. We didn't want the jury to think that we were being overly intrusive, and they were hard to read when you did look at them. But I thought, and he's a very effective examiner, but I thought the repetition of bad texts didn't resonate that much, because in none of those texts was there any admission or suggestion that he had done any of these things.
All right, folks, we're just getting started. Chanely Painter staying with us the whole hour. I want to get to this commercial quickly because we have so much more to show, folks, including Johnny being bad. How did he handle and deal with those text messages? Chanley's asking all the right questions tonight. Let's take a look.
With Worthy.com.
You text Mr. Bettany, "Let's burn Amber," 3 exclamation points. You say, "Let's drown her before we burn her," 3 exclamation points. After you said, "Let's drown her before we burn her," Mr. Depp, you said, "I will her burnt corpse afterwards to make sure she is dead." That's what you said that you would do after you burned her and after you drowned her. Did I read that right?
You certainly did, yes.
Some difficult stuff that Johnny Depp had to deal with on the witness stand. How do you prepare for all that? Still with me, Court TV legal correspondent Chanely Painter, who spoke with the lead attorney from his team, Ben Chu, today. That had to be a big part of what they had to do here, because there was so much of this bad character kind of evidence directly related and connected to Johnny Depp in this case.
Absolutely. And I talked about that with Ben Chu. I said, was there a moment when you're going through discovery in this case, you're conducting depositions, that you turned to Johnny Depp and said, are you sure you want to go through with this, given what they knew the jury would hear and how Amber Heard's team would try to paint him on the witness stand as the abuser and whatnot? And he said, yes, he did have that moment with Johnny Depp. And for Johnny, this was worth it, because he had to get his truth out there. He had to do it for his children, whatever it took. He knew the risk about it, and he wanted to go forward, and he did, like we played earlier, prepare with the team of attorneys. His time on the witness stand, he directed how he would tell his story. And it was so interesting to me, Vinny, to hear that Wayne Dennison, really one of the unsung heroes of Depp's team, the cross-examiner of most all of the experts brought forth, really did hold Johnny Depp's feet to the fire, trying to prepare him for that cross, which they just told him just to keep his cool and be himself.
Absolutely. All right, let's get back to Chanley's interview with Ben Chu.
So during the trial, there was a lot of unflattering, as kind of mentioned, exposure into Johnny and Amber's relationship. At any point, when you're reading through the discovery that you mentioned or the depositions that you're conducting, did you think of asking Johnny, are you really sure that this is what you want to do?
We'd crossed that Rubicon before, and we knew that there were some unflattering texts, mostly done after the allegations were made by Ms. Heard. So we thought that those needed to be brought out affirmatively by our side and put into context. So we did that. I mean, we never tried to portray Mr. Depp as a saint. He's a man who owns his faults. We didn't want to hide those from the jury. He took ownership of his struggles with alcohol and drugs, and he took ownership of texts that were private texts, never intended to be seen by the world or by Miss Heard in no way. But he really took accountability for that, and he thought about it very carefully before we filed the complaint.
Okay, I'm running out of time, but I have to ask Amber Heard on the stand. She spent several days. She talked about really horrible allegations. Jury ultimately didn't believe her. Why do you think that is?
I don't want to speculate. I think there was a contrast between Mr. Depp and Miss Heard in terms of taking accountability. I think Mr. Depp took accountability, and Miss Heard, there seemed to be very few subjects on which she was willing to make any kind of concessions, and I think there may have been a credibility gap.
Sure, real quick. You went viral with your fist pump for Kate Moss. Take us back to that moment. What was going through your mind?
When I heard Miss Heard say that she punched Mr. Depp because she was afraid that he would push her sister Whitney down the stairs like he pushed Kate Moss, I lost my composure for a moment and did a fist bump because I knew that that was not going to be corroborated by Ms. Moss. Unfortunately, Ms. Moss, who had never testified in any proceeding, came forward affirmatively to say that that was not the case. Johnny had never pushed her, had never hit her, had never kicked her.
And how important was that testimony to your case, do you think?
I thought it was very important because this is a case about credibility, and that went directly to credibility.
Were there any turning points in this trial as you look back on it to say, oh, that was where really momentum turned our way?
I thought there were three. I think one was the totality of Johnny's testimony, the totality of Ms. Heard's testimony, and then finally, in closing, when Camille and I had an opportunity to kind of recapitulate and put it all in context.
The appeal. What can you tell us? Heard's team wants to appeal this case. Do you plan to fight it? Does Depp really want, $8.35 million from her?
As Johnny said in his testimony, and we said in closing, this is not about money for Johnny anyway. This is about restoring his reputation and getting his life back. So it's not about money. As far as the appeal, I have no idea what grounds they're going to allege, but we don't think that there are any viable basis for appeal.
And there is one judgment against Johnny, and that's appealable if you wanted to. That
would be, to the extent there's no global resolution, that's something that we'd have to consider.
I have to talk about you and Camille Vasquez really skyrocketing into the spotlight. What has that been like to do it? Have you ever expected anything like that?
I didn't expect anything like that. I don't think Camille did either, but she's handling it wonderfully. And
can you send our congratulations on to her for being promoted to partner?
I will.
And is there anything else that you would like to say? Anything else that I haven't asked you that you want to make sure you say?
No, we just wanted to thank you all, and we wanted to thank the jury and the court and the court personnel for all the work that they did, and we're very appreciative. And Mr. Depp really wanted to thank everybody.
Sure. And thank you for your time again.
Thank you.
I appreciate it so much. I have like 3 more pages, but that's okay.
We've got more of the interview. We're playing it in a little different order than it happened in real time, so we've got much more ahead this hour. Let me bring in our guest. Joining us tonight in New York, nationally known psychotherapist, currently the host of Talking Live and the Bite Size podcast, Dr. Robbie Ludwig. In Los Angeles, California family law litigator, TikTok lawyer, Lamar Mojda. He is on. And make sure you check out her podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And you can check her out on TikTok at Lawyer Lamar. Also in LA, Deputy Public Defender, LA County, Philip Dubé with us. Great to see everyone. Dr. Robbie Ludwig, what do you think about being a lawyer like, Ben Chu, great lawyer, but now all of a sudden, celebrity / rock star? How does that change his life? And what advice would you have for someone who, at that point in your career, all of a sudden now everybody wants a piece of you?
Yeah. So it's such a good question because in looking at Ben in his interview, it seems like he's kind of an introvert in many ways. And so right now he has an opportunity to decide how he wants to use this new profile that he has and what's important to him. So it sounds like he's mature, he has a great legal career, and I imagine he'll use it just to attract new great cases. That's how I see him using it. I don't see him as wanting to have his own show. That's just not my impression.
Yeah, Lamar, you know, we don't expect this when we go to law school, right? We don't expect to walk out of a courthouse and have people screaming our names. It just doesn't happen to lawyers.
Yes, you're so right. I mean, we're just a community of nerds that love the law, and it's been so nice to see that the world is also enjoying the law and finding inspiration in these attorneys and in the legal field in general.
Let me ask you, Philip Dubé, Ben Chu, where he is right now in his career, what do you think, how does it change his life? How does it change who you are when you go from being just a great lawyer to a famous great lawyer?
Well, assuming he wants to stay in the law, he's going to be able to write his own ticket. And what it's going to do is draw future clients. He's going to make it rain, as we say in the civil industry. He is going to bring in the big bucks, bring in more business, more clients. He'll probably be made an equity partner, and he'll make big bucks. And he can just sit back and start delegating the files to the associate attorneys and just tell them how to try cases as he's out there drumming up more business. He won't have to be hands-on anymore in the courtroom. And oftentimes the lawyers who are in the trenches all day, they look forward to delegating and going into management so that they can mentor and groom some of the younger, more ambitious lawyers who have, yet to be out there long enough to have the same experience that Ben had. So I actually celebrate his accomplishment. I think it's wonderful, and I think the best is yet to come for him.
Yeah. Living the dream, there, you know, and you know, you don't expect it. You just don't. You do your job, you're good, you have clients, you have cases, but you never could ever plan for something like this. All right, guest staying with us. We've got more. Chanely Painter still going to be with us. We have more of her interview with Ben Chu coming up. Don't go anywhere. His reaction to the statements from Elaine Bederhoft, Amber Heard's attorney, what she said, and then Ben's reaction. You do not want to miss it.
.com.
We're asking you to finally hold this man responsible. He has never accepted responsibility for anything in his life. You've heard it this whole time. He hasn't admitted to anything. He's blamed everybody in the world, his agent, his manager, his lawyer, Amber, his friends, everybody. But he's never accepted responsibility for a thing he's done in his life.
That was Amber Heard's attorney, Elaine Bederhoft, during her closing argument during the trial. Now, after the verdict came in, Elaine Bederhoft sat down for an interview with the Today Show where she talked about Amber's reaction to the jury's decision.
You know, one of the first things she said is, I am so sorry to all those women out there. This is a setback for all women in and outside the courtroom. And she feels it, and she feels the burden of that.
In her interview with Depp's attorney, Chanely Painter gave Benjamin Chu the opportunity to respond to some of the statements that Elaine Bederhoft made on the Today Show.
I want to talk about Heard's lead attorney, Elaine Bederhoft. She made some post-verdict interviews as well last week. In fact, I was supposed to sit down with her. She had to cancel last minute, something urgent in court. We haven't yet rescheduled, but that offer is obviously still out there for her. But I want to give you the opportunity to address some of the things that she did say last week to the media. She claims that your team demonized Amber Heard and suppressed evidence. What's your response?
I think it's disappointing that she would say something like that. With respect to suppression of evidence, there was a lot more evidence that came in Fairfax County than ever came in London. And I took that as not being complimentary of our judge, who is a wonderful judge. I don't think, I just think that's an improper characterization. As far as demonization, the cross-examination of Ms. Heard that was done, I believe, beautifully by Camille Vasquez was not intended to demonize her. It really was predicated on her own words. So the cross-examination was based on statements that Ms. Heard had made, and presenting her with some audios that she herself had made and really asking for her explanation. I don't think that's demonization. I think that's cross-examination.
Right. She points to medical records, text messages from Stephen Deuters, things like that. Would that have made a difference? Can you enlighten us on?
I don't believe any of the evidence that was excluded, and there was evidence excluded on both sides, and you're very familiar. There are rules of evidence that apply. Not everything comes in.
Right. And suppression may not be the best word, too, that she uses, right? It's inadmissible because of hearsay or it's not relevant. Or...
Exactly. And I think Her Honor, you know, played it right down the middle, was very consistent in her rulings, and I think it's an improper characterization, and perhaps she just misspoke.
Sure. Okay, another thing, Elaine said that this verdict is a huge setback for women. Thinking about reporting domestic violence would send a message that they cannot win. What's your team's response?
I think that's entirely untrue. And Mr. Depp would want people to come forward if they were victims of domestic abuse. So I don't think this is a setback at all for women or men who have been victimized by domestic abuse. And I think this is a victory for truth. I think that's, I don't think it's a setback at all.
Elaine also pointed to the jury as possibly even being tainted by the massive amount of media. This was all over social media, as you probably know, and even blaming the cameras in the courtroom for possibly tainting this verdict. What do you think?
That was almost more disappointing than her statement about evidence being kept out, because I construed that as an affront to the jury. I mean, the jury took an oath, as you know, not to look at social media, and there's no basis that the jury violated their oath. And these are people, and you saw them every day, who gave up 6 weeks of their lives, of their work, of their family, to pay attention not only to the evidence that Mr. Depp put forward, but also to the evidence Ms. Heard put forward. And to cast a shadow on them, I think, was really unfortunate and disappointing.
Yeah, there was a statement even recently that Heard's team released. I'm sure you've also read this, but I want to get your take. The spokesperson for Amber says it is as unseemly as it is unprofessional that Johnny Depp's legal team has chosen to do a victory lap for setting back decades of how women can be treated in the courtroom. What's next? A movie deal and merchandising. That was the latest statement. What's your response to that?
The response to that was one day after the verdict, I believe it was one day after the verdict, Ms. Bederhoft appeared on national programs to set forth Ms. Heard's position. So this is a response to that.
Want to bring back in Chanely Painter, Court TV legal correspondent in New York City tonight. Chanely, did you get any feeling for what the nature of the relationship is between the two legal teams? I don't even know if they knew each other beforehand, but is it bad blood, or is it just, hey, we did battle and we move on?
You know, I always have my eye out for inside the courtroom, maybe when the cameras aren't on, when the attorneys arrive in the morning, during a recess. You can see them interacting in the courtroom. You can see them interacting in the hallway. Always professional. They do battle when the jury's in there, right? They each have their position they advocate for. But I'm noticing the attorneys greeting each other, complimenting each other on what they're wearing, shaking hands. And that's important, I think, to carry that professionalism on. And so even though they have polar opposite points of view, that is important to carry with them, and how he even responded to that. I mean, to Johnny Depp's team, you know, he is the domestic abuse survivor, and his story is one that they hope sends a resounding message that inspires any victim, man or woman, to speak up, live their truth, fight for that truth. And of course, you have Amber Heard's team, who advocates that she was actually the victim, and the jury just didn't believe that version of the story.
That's right. Somebody won, somebody lost, and it was very clear at the end of the case. Chanley's going to stand by. I want to bring back in our guests, Dr. Robbie Ludwig, Limor Mojdehizad, and Philip Dubé, still with us. Limor, let me ask you, what did you think of Amber's response and Amber's team's response? Did it sound like sour grapes to you?
It did a little bit, and last time I was here, I emphasized the need to respect the court process and the outcome, and to question the motives of the people who were tasked to come to this decision, I think is unprofessional and unhelpful. And I think that for someone whose complaint is that the decision was too heavily influenced by the court of public opinion, to bring those grievances to the court of public opinion is just a little bit too hypocritical for my taste.
Yeah, Philip, what was your reaction to the response from Amber Heard's side?
I think it was wholly unnecessary. Now, I will say this, though, to be fair to Elaine Bederhoft, I actually really like her. I think she's a very classy lady, and she's doing whatever she can to represent the interests of her client. I think what she was doing was not attacking the jury. She was not attacking the court. I think she was voicing some of her disappointment with the rulings and obviously the outcome. And I think one of the issues, and it's a good issue, frankly, that will be raised on appeal, assuming Amber can get the funds together to post the bond to get into court on appeal, or if she has an insurance defense company defending her, I don't know, they might exercise their rights to take the appeal. But there's going to be this idea of what we call issue preclusion or collateral estoppel, meaning there were various issues of defamation that were already litigated in Britain. And both sides had a full and fair opportunity to litigate those issues. And because there was a final judgment, the resolution of those issues in favor of Amber Heard should have been imported into this case to preclude further litigation on the issue. We'll see what the court does.
No, we can't have a 71-year-old man wearing a wig make these decisions about cases in the United States, Philip. That's crazy.
No, the issue is the issue. Was the issue decided where both sides had an opportunity to litigate?
Decided by a 71-year-old judge. It's not by real people.
Oh,
we the people. We the people. We broke away from them years ago. I think it was like 1776.
Don't get me wrong. I don't agree with that judge's decision.
Okay.
I actually think the judge was wrong. Don't get me wrong. But remember, if you're Elaine Bederhoft and you are advocating for your client, Amber Heard, you're going to look for every which way to reverse this judgment on appeal.
I got you. And no, it was a real issue they brought up. It's just, you know, come on. We got our own system here. We set it up. We've got our own constitution, a little bit better than theirs. Let me ask you, Dr. Robbie Ludwig, they keep saying this is a setback for women, a setback for women. That's, you know, that's their perspective. I don't think the jury thought it was a setback for women.
Yeah, I don't think it has to be a setback for women. There were a lot of abused men that felt very validated and liberated by this decision. Listen, you know, when women are victims of domestic abuse, what's most important is that they have a place to turn to. Usually the first place to turn to is not the court of law because they want to survive. So a support group or an organization or therapy is usually where they first tell their story. So I would hope it's not a setback for women. You know, it just sounds like PR spin that Amber was talking about, and I don't even believe that that was her first concern. I think with Amber, her first concern is always herself, and in part that's what the jury responded to, a lack of awareness of what she did wrong. Even in the article, she just points the finger, blames, and doesn't talk about where she was wrong in this whole picture. So it's Amber's likability problem and credibility problem that was really the issue here. She is not all women and all women are not her.
Yeah, and the self-awareness is real because those post-verdict statements made by Amber Heard, potentially more defamatory than the Washington Post op-ed. and we'll see how that plays out. But I know our time was short tonight, but I appreciate you all coming on and helping us through this big night here on Closing Arguments. Dr. Robbie Ludwood, Limor Mojdehizad, and of course, Philip Dubé. We'll see you again really soon. When we come back, we've got more from Chanely Painter's sit-down interview with Ben Chew. A little bit of the reaction to the verdict next. All right, time to get back to the interview we were showing you. Chanely Painter sitting down with Ben Chew, Johnny Depp's lead attorney, here talking about the verdict.
When the verdict came in, our hearts were in our throats. We were hopeful, but not presumptuous. So we were really sweating it out.
It took nearly 13 hours for the jury to reach this verdict. And as an attorney, I know that can be, really anxiousness going through what you were thinking. Can you take us to that moment? Were you having any doubts in those hours of deliberations?
We were anxious, but we cut the anxiety by playing a ferocious game of Monopoly in our room. So it distracted us sufficiently, but we were still thinking about the verdict.
Sure. And of course, we had this false start, if you will. We're all gathered in the courtroom. It's almost 3 o'clock, and the jury didn't fill out the damages portion of the verdict form.
When you find for a defamatory statement, one or more, you need to fill out the compensatory damages. It has to be at least $1 for compensatory damages and up to whatever you feel the damages should be. And for punitive damages, you can put a 0 there, or you can fill out that as well, but I need those lines filled out, okay? All right, so if I can have you retire back to the deliberation room and do that for me, okay?
You guys approached the bench with the judge. What did she say in that moment? Did you know what was happening in that moment or what the verdict may have been?
We didn't, and we were hoping that she might give us some clues, but she played it straight down the line and said that the jury had reached a verdict as to one of the statements, but had not filled out a damage, and she was apprising counsel for both sides of her intent to orally instruct them to put in a damages number. But we didn't know whether that was a statement on the counterclaim or one of the affirmative 3 statements in Mr. Depp's case.
But you knew someone had at least won a statement against the other.
Knew that
Did you have a good feeling?
We didn't dare have a good feeling. We felt really good about how the evidence came in, and we thought Johnny did a magnificent job finally having his say. But the jury was very hard, at least very hard for us to read.
Sure. Let's talk more about this verdict. It's a split verdict, right? I mean, overwhelming win for your team, the jury clearly believing Johnny Depp's version of events, but they did also find at least one of those statements in the countersuit said by Adam Waldman, the attorney for Johnny Depp, was defamatory towards Amber Heard. How do you make sense of that?
Well, I think it actually is consistent, and I would agree with your characterization. This is an overwhelming victory for Johnny as to all 3 of his statements, and as to 2 of the 3 statements at issue in the counterclaims, in which Mr. Waldman characterized Ms. Heard's claims as a hoax. I think that as to the one that the jury found liability on, it was a convoluted statement with a lot of moving pieces in it about what Amber's friends did on that particular night, May 21, 2016. So that was really very difficult to prove. So that was not a total surprise, nor do I think it was in any way inconsistent with what the jury did in affirming Johnny's claims and in knocking out the other 2.
Let's talk about Johnny. He wasn't there in the courtroom during the reading of the verdict. Should he have been there?
He wanted to be there, but he had a prior commitment with Jeff Beck, who's a close friend of his, to play in England. So he was torn, but he is a man who fulfills his obligations, and he had an obligation to Jeff Beck. But he made very clear in his statement, which you probably saw, that he had profound respect for the court and for the jury and for all of you who spent so much time there in Fairfax County. So his not being there was in no way intended to be disrespectful, to the contrary.
Right, and how did he find out being across the pond?
I believe that he was in a pub watching it, and we weren't, obviously we couldn't share that moment with him, but we did FaceTime him, and he looked like the weight of the world was off of his shoulders. And
Yeah. Tell us more about his reaction, and I see you becoming emotional. You became emotional during closings, too.
yeah, I mean, his life was on the line, so we felt very strongly, and we felt strongly that he did not do anything remotely like this. And we all felt that way, or we wouldn't have been working on it. So.
And I could see that every day. You know, I was there in the courtroom. I watched how you interacted with your client. You know, as an attorney, that's so important. You could see the bond that you have.
He's a great guy. I mean, he's got a terrific sense of humor, and the fact that he could show that when the worst possible details about his life were being exhumed on an international stage. I mean, he knew when he had us file this case that there was going to be embarrassing, humiliating information about his personal life, and yet he did this anyway. And it was because the charge against him, he felt, was so heinous and something with which his children should not have to live.
Right, and considering that, did you also have to sort of prep him for the worst as well in the outcome of this case?
We did, and I think he was quite cognizant of that in light of what happened in London. And we went through a mediation, and you know, the mediator was candid about defamation cases, as you know, are very hard to prevail on, even under the best of circumstances. So this, yeah, I think he went into it eyes wide open.
You kind of took my next question. Was he aware of what a long shot this was? Because, like you said, the law for actual malice and defamation, especially from a plaintiff, is difficult. It's a high burden.
It's a very high burden. I think he understood that, but I think he felt that he had no other choice but to try to get the truth out and to have his say. And I think, irrespective of the verdict, I think he was pleased that he had a fair opportunity to be heard. So I think either way, I think he had the satisfaction of having his say.
And it's been about a week now. Have you talked to him recently? How's he doing?
He seems to be doing fine. He's quite busy. He's doing shows with Jeff Beck, and I think he's finally able to breathe. One of his friends said that he hasn't seen Johnny smile like this since 2016.
Let me bring back in Court TV legal correspondent Chanely Painter. Fresh off this interview, Chanely, an amazing moment there. He got emotional, Ben Chew did.
Yeah, he did, Vinny. I could tell that his eyes were welling up with tears, and I just wanted to give him that moment to express what he was feeling. He was really reliving the verdict and what that meant for his client. You know, if you think back to closing arguments, he actually became emotional when he was arguing those final tidbits to the jury about what this means to Johnny Depp, that he needs his life back. He's doing this for his children. And again, he had tears in his eyes, which really goes to show how invested he is in his client, how much he believes in Johnny Depp.
Yes, and you know, this was a civil case. You know, civil cases about generally damages, money, etc. But it really brought home the point that this was much, much more. And it was the kind of reaction we see sometimes with criminal attorneys who literally have clients' lives in their hands.
Absolutely. And, you know, this is a relationship between Ben Chew and Johnny Depp that has been years in the making. He's represented Johnny in previous matters, litigation matters, and he's still representing him in a couple of other legal matters moving forward. I did get to ask, you know, what is next for Johnny Depp? Everyone keeps asking what's next. And of course, he's going to keep himself busy playing music, but also he has a movie coming up in France, Vinny, later this year.
All right, Chanely Painter, job well done, as always. Enjoy the Big Apple. Get a slice. Talk to you later. Think Tank next, their reaction to Chanley's interview. Don't go anywhere.
Join Calibrate.com.
In New York City, the interview with the winning attorney from the trial of this century, the lawyer who shocked the world by winning a $15 million verdict in a celebrity defamation case. Johnny Depp's attorney, Ben Chu, talks to Court TV's Chanely Painter.
This is an overwhelming victory for Johnny as to all three of his statements.
Tonight, we learn what it was like behind the scenes in Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. Meanwhile, in Orlando, Florida, the next live trial on Court TV, Michael Redlick marries his stepdaughter Danielle and ends up dead. But was it murder, self-defense, or a heart attack? Tonight, we take a closer look at Florida versus Danielle Redlick.
He stabbed himself, and I ran into the bathroom, and then when I came out, I was trying to help him, and I saw he was lying in blood.
And on the docket tonight in Fremont County, Idaho, the doomsday prophet Chad Daybell back in court, getting ready for the biggest trial of 2023, as he and his wife, Lori Daybell, are facing murder charges after her children were found buried in his backyard. Plus, in Montgomery County, Maryland, a man arrested with burglary tools, a knife, and a gun outside of Supreme Court Justice Kavanaugh's home, who allegedly intended to murder the justice because he was upset by the leaked abortion case opinion and the school shooting in Texas. Tonight's 13th juror question: why is this happening? Get ready. This hour of closing arguments starts right now.
I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. Really a big night on Closing Arguments. Big interview today by Court TV legal correspondent Chanely Painter, sitting down with the winning attorney from Depp v. Heard, Ben Chu, Johnny Depp's lead attorney, meeting with Chanely today in New York. We've got some of that interview to go through. We played some of it for you already last hour, but we're going to get some more insight and reaction tonight from our think tank. Let's bring him in. Joining us tonight in Atlanta, Georgia, criminal defense attorney Elaine Mercy is with us and back with us. She's been gone for a couple of weeks, so if you don't mind, Elaine, I just want to let the folks know why you've been gone for a couple of weeks, and our thoughts are with you. I want to put up a picture. This is Joseph Mercy, Elaine's dad. Amazing guy, amazing life. Living the American dream, businessman, entrepreneur, a go-getter, and he passed away, and it's been a difficult time for the family because he's so loved. But Elaine, we wanted to pay tribute to him and thank him for the wonderful legacy that he has left, who joins us here on Closing Arguments, his daughter Elaine. So, Elaine, great to have you back.
That means so much. That means so much to me. Thank you so much, Vinny. I've been rendered speechless. In fact, if you can ever, if you could ever imagine, thank you so much. I know he would love it, and he would probably be like, because I'm a big deal. So thank you so much.
And I know he would watch you. He would watch you all the time here.
Yes, all the time. All the time.
Also,
thank you so much.
Absolutely. Also with us in Los Angeles, California tonight, former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani, and in Phoenix, Arizona, criminal defense attorney who represented Jodi Arias and the author of the book series Trapped with Miss Arias, Kirk Nurmi, is with us. Great to see everyone tonight. Let's begin. Let's show you a piece of the interview, Chanely Painter with Ben Chu, the winning attorney in a defamation case representing a celebrity. I'm still shocked. Here he is talking about what this victory meant.
It's a split verdict, right? I mean, overwhelming win for your team. The jury clearly believing Johnny Depp's version of events, but they did also find at least one of those statements in the countersuit said by Adam Waldman, the attorney for Johnny Depp, was defamatory towards Amber Heard. How do you make sense of that?
Well, I think it actually is consistent, and I would agree with your characterization. This is an overwhelming victory for Johnny as to all three of his statements, and as to two of the three statements at issue in the counterclaims, in which Mr. Waldman characterized Ms. Heard's claims as a hoax. I think that as to the one that the jury found liability on, it was a convoluted statement with a lot of moving pieces in it about what Amber's friends did on that particular night, May 21, 2016. So that was really very difficult to prove. So that was not a total surprise, nor do I think it was in any way inconsistent with what the jury did in affirming Johnny's claims and in knocking out the other two.
Okay, Eklund, I'll begin with you. What do you think? You know, the verdict, Amber Heard did win one of the claims, a lot less money, but was it a consistent verdict, do you think, from this jury?
I think it was. I think it made sense. I think that had Amber Heard taken any type of responsibility for any of it, I think it would have been a different verdict. But I don't think that she was advised correctly. I think that Johnny Depp's attorney were ready. They were ready, they were prepared, and they, you know, you can't sleep during trial. You have to be prepared. You have to go through the questions. And it doesn't seem that Amber Heard's team or that witness was very prepared.
Nima, your thoughts about the nature of this verdict? I mean, you've got Benchu saying he sees it as being consistent. Other people have said, wait a minute, how could she win one claim and he's winning claims if they're, you know, if they're alleging defamation against one another on the same issue?
It is consistent, Vinny. And first of all, I want to say it's so glad to have Eklund back. I mean, we missed her, we loved her, and I know we missed her father, but you raised an amazing, intelligent daughter. So turning to the verdict, if you look at the statement, if you drill down, Adam Waldman said that Amber and her friends perpetuated a hoax when they called LAPD that night. Well, Amber didn't call LAPD. Someone from New York did. And when LAPD showed up just a few blocks away from where I'm sitting, Amber didn't cooperate with them. So that statement was false. It was defamatory. And the jury did its job by actually kind of parsing through the statement there. So I agree with their verdict, and I think it was internally consistent.
All right, Kirk, let me ask you a completely different question. Ben Chu now is living a life after a really big trial, like a really big trial that the world was watching. Your thoughts about his life from this point moving forward, having been through a relatively similar situation a few years back?
Well, let me first echo what Nima said, and what a blessing it is to have Eklund back with us, and we send my love to her and her family in this tough time. As for your question, Vinny, you know, it is really a strange kind of thing because you're in this trial, you know, and early other parts of the interview, he talks about there was going to be coverage, but they had no idea how big it was going to get, and I could certainly relate to that, right? And you're in this pressure cooker, you're on camera all the time, all day, every day, and then you're kind of kicked out and it's over. And it's a different kind of thing. It's a time of decompression. You could see the emotion when he was talking to Chanely. There's a time for decompression. And he had an entirely different situation that he was obviously connected to his client and believed in his client. So there's that kind of emotional release of that victory. So I think it's really going to be a period of adjustment for him and his entire team, dealing with the kind of the notoriety, at least it's good notoriety on his part, and just to kind of adjust back to normal life. And I think that's what he's going to find himself doing over the next several months.
All right, let's take a look at more of the interview. You know, Elaine Bederhoft also did interviews. She sat down the Today Show, and Chanely got Benjamin Chu to respond to what she said about this verdict. Let's take a listen.
Another thing, Elaine said that this verdict is a huge setback for women. Thinking about reporting domestic violence would send a message that they cannot win. What's your team's response?
I think that's entirely untrue. And Mr. Depp would want people to come forward if they were victims of domestic abuse. So I don't think this is a setback at all for women or men who have been victimized by domestic abuse. And I think this is a victory for truth. I think that's, I don't think it's a setback at all.
Nima, your thoughts? Is this in any way a setback, this verdict, for anyone?
Well, there's two things. One, Elaine Bederhoft is a little bit of a sore loser, right? I mean, compare her statements to Ben Chu. You know, they're saying that Ben's doing a victory lap. I mean, he's not. He's been a professional throughout the trial during this interview with Chanely. And it's actually Heard's lawyers, the statements that they're saying, questioning the jury verdict, talking about appeal. Obviously, it's Heard's right to appeal, but she doesn't have a very good basis for appeal if you're talking about at least the arguments that Elaine gave during the Today Show. Now, with respect to setting the women's rights movement back, look, domestic violence, sexual assault, we all know those are two of the most underreported crimes in this country. I don't think that this verdict helped the movement. And in fact, it probably gave a roadmap to those who are accused to go after their accusers, especially when they have money, when their accusers don't. So it is going to have an impact. But ultimately, this was the just result. It was the right verdict in this case, regardless of what happens to other accusations throughout the country.
Yeah, Kirk, you know, there's so many different ways to look at this trial and what it means, but Nima makes a great point that, hey, if you've been wrongly accused of something, now there's sort of new hope or new life in a way to respond to that if you've been wrongly accused.
Right, and that's exactly the way it should be, Vinny. I kind of wonder, you know, we had this Me Too movement, and the assumption was we were going to believe all accusers. And that sounds really good until it's someone that you care about, a man, your father, your brother, your son, etc. And now we see this blowback of Mr. Depp. This Man Too movement is kind of a correction, meaning that there's going to have to be cooperation. There's going to have to be evidence to advance that. And that presumption of innocence, that proof beyond a reasonable doubt, that's the way it should be, and that's the way it's always been. There shouldn't be a need for a movement. The presumption of innocence is the movement. It served this country well. So I don't understand what Ms. Bederhoft is talking about. And I think what we see here in the Depp trial is kind of a correction to an overcorrection, where we go back to that middle ground where we require proof and we hold people's feet to the fire should they make false allegations.
Eklund, they're saying it's a setback for women, but you speak to women, it was overwhelmingly women who were not necessarily believing Amber Heard's testimony in this case. I mean, I see it every day on my Facebook page.
Because her testimony was not consistent. And I believe that what came out was that men can also be abused, and men can also be the victims of domestic violence. And just the blowback from everybody when the evidence was presented that he was actually a victim is a problem. I don't think anybody was set back. I think that people were able to see the truth of certain situations. Nothing is pretty. You're not going to get 100%, of 100% the perfect defendant or the perfect plaintiff. But I just saw that, hey, we have a little bit more grace for men now, and now there's a space for men to really report if they're being abused.
Let's go back to that interview, and Johnny Depp had to testify here. Like, how do you get ready? Because Johnny Depp, you talk about some baggage, they knew all these things were going to come out, whether it was text messages, his drug use, etc. Let's listen.
Both Johnny and Amber took the stand in this trial. Let's start with Johnny's testimony. How did you help him prepare for the days he was on the stand?
Mostly it was Jessica Myers, who's a very talented attorney in our New York office. We tried to match up attorney with witness, and it was our collective thought that Jessica and Johnny were a good match. They're both very quick, they're very, very smart and diligent, and it really worked out well. So most of the preparation was one-on-one, Jessica and Johnny, or with Camille or me. We brought Wayne Dennison from our Boston office to come in and play the heavy, and a role he played very well.
Great cross-examiner, by the way.
Well, I think Wayne is the best. He's terrific. So he came in to play the part of Ben Rottenborn, cross-examiner, because we anticipated they would put a man on Johnny and try to get him riled up. So I think Johnny was well prepared. But as to the substance of his testimony, that was all Johnny.
Kirk, how important is that? Like, we see what lawyers do in the courtroom, but how important is it when you have a client who is going to take the stand and is going to be cross-examined? How would you weigh that versus the work that's done inside the courtroom?
Yeah, well, ultimately, you have to prepare your client as best you can for that moment on the stand. If you're going to think they're going to take the stand, you have to prepare them as best you could. And it sounds like Mr. Chu and his team did exactly that. You want to cross-examine them. You want to confront them with some of the evidence so that they can, in fact, get used to it, to understand the tricks that might be used. And we did see good cross-examination of Mr. Depp. Some of it, I think Mr. Chu pointed out in the interview, was irrelevant, trying to just degrade him. But having him prepared for that so that he could react in a calm manner was probably the most important thing that they did in this trial, because it was his testimony, I believe, that really won the trial for Team Depp.
Yeah, and for someone like Johnny Depp, I don't think you're used to people talking to you like that, right? If you're this big star for decades, I mean, generally people in your life don't question you, cross-examine you, try to pin you down. So it's a whole different experience for him. Let's take a listen to more now. And this is another interesting part of this, talking about, Johnny Depp and sort of that relationship with Benjamin Chu.
He's a great guy. I mean, he's got a terrific sense of humor, and the fact that he could show that when the worst possible details about his life were being exhumed on an international stage. I mean, he knew when he had us file this case that there was going to be embarrassing, humiliating information about his personal life, and yet he did this anyway.
And that gets us back to square one when we first started covering this case, Eklund, which is like, why is he doing this? And it's up to the attorneys, right? You've got to sit your client down and let them know exactly everything that could possibly happen, everything that could possibly come out. And they had that conversation, Eklund, and they still went forward.
Yeah, like when you have that come to Jesus conversation with your client, hey, you can either, especially if this is a civil case, we can be bankrupt. You can be bankrupt. I'm going to go home paid, but you may not. And it's very serious, but I have to just commend Johnny Depp's team, because there was no ego in the room. Everybody played their position. He made an audit of everybody's strengths and then compared it to each witness. It was brilliantly done. And then to also add just how much prepared. Johnny Depp was on the stand for days. This is not normal for one witness to be on the stand for days. And that meant that there had to be so much preparation. And he did excellent. He did a lovely job. So the team did an amazing job. It was just beautiful.
Yeah, but Eklund, as you're saying, he was on the stand for days. Kirk is down there saying, what, 4 days? That's nothing. Try like 17 days. Try 17 days, then talk to me. All right.
Without a body.
All right. Eklund, Kirk, Nima, all staying with us the whole hour. When we come back, we're going to talk about the next live trial on Court TV. We expect everything to start up tomorrow, right here on your front row seat to justice, involving a man who married his stepdaughter and ended up dead. More details when we return.